Hey guys, this is Cliff, coming to you today to talk about how to get everything from Combat back into its box. I've discovered that the games that I really enjoy tend to have a lot of counters, things like Combat Commander, Combat, and Fields of Fire, where you have hundreds and hundreds of counters. I like to keep everything back in its original box, so using counter trays, it's not going to work. They just don't fit. They're a fine solution, but I don't like having trays all over the place. I like everything together in my boxes. It's easier to find when I'm ready to play. I don't like baggies and I don't like envelopes. So what I've done is I've used a system I've seen other people use for other games where we use bead boxes. This bead box system comes with 2 large trays, 34 medium trays, and about 16 tiny trays. The tiny trays are handy for like half-inch counters in some of my other old war games. The big boxes actually work well for Combat here, and the bulk of the work is being done by these medium-sized trays, which hold the regular size 9/16 counters really well. You can get about 25 in each box if you try. So rather than doing the typical unboxing, where you start with a full box and you take everything out and look at what's there, I'm going to do the opposite and do a reboxing video, where we start with the empty box and see how everything fits back in again. So here we go. We're going to start with those big counters, those 1-inch counters. The Germans characters here. I've got 2 teams, blue and red. They both fit in this big box. I've separated them with a little wooden separator. I'm going to work on that. I've made labels for everything, and I'm going to be putting those up in the files section if you're interested. So 2 teams of Germans, another box with the other 2 teams. All the Germans in 2 boxes, nice and organized. The Americans can go right next door. I've got enough room in here for another whole team of Americans. So when the expansion volume 2 comes out, I can handle that, or I'm working on making some of my own American counters. Next in, we need the cards. It's a card-based game. I made some card boxes. I put these in the files section too. They're not works of art, but they're functional. I got one for the Germans here. Nice little tuck box, fits perfectly right there, and the Americans can go right next door. Let's get that tuck box. See, my tuck box is plenty big. I could probably get sleeves on these cards. I haven't sleeved my cards. They're not, I don't shuffle them enough to really require sleeves. There we go. So far so good. Okay, how about all those other 800 and some? Well, I've color-coded them so that morale is going to be blue. So I got my morales here. Now the key with this system is not to have a place for everything, because if you got as many places as you got things, you haven't really organized, you've just kind of categorized. The key to this system is to be able to find things quickly. As I'm playing, a narrative is developing in my head, because that's just the way I am. And the narrative is the thing, and if I have to stop and look for a particular marker and get all frustrated looking for that stupid counter, it breaks the spell, and it takes away a little bit from the enjoyment of the game. So the key here is to be able to find things fast. So my boxes will have between 12 and 20 counters, and what I'm looking for will have multiples, usually like 5 or 6. So I've got like a 1 in 4 chance of finding what I want just right offhand. I can get it there with the tweezers, rapidly find what I need, get back to the game, and keep the narrative flowing. It's also easier to put things away when things aren't so granular. So I've got all the morales. For the Americans, I use green, and as before, each of these boxes has its own label. They contain around a dozen to 20 usually. Sometimes this one probably has closer to 28. That's getting as many as you can get in there. This one has markers for both Germans and Americans, so as a little mnemonic I made the diagonal. Alright. And let's see here. Things having to do with fire I made red. So we got our out of ammo markers. We got our gun emplacements and foxholes. We got our smokes and smokes and smokes. I mean, 50 smokes. Who needs 50 smokes? Good grief. Got our mines. A few more American markers. And then our wounds. Light wound, bad wound. Don't know what the heck a chest wound is supposed to be out of the new rule book. And then, I assume that's like a bad wound. Our admin markers, our turn markers, etc. Right down there. The reason I do it this way is this flat spot here, where this is double here, this is just the right size to accommodate the maps. Just drop right in there. All 4 maps fit just fine. You notice I didn't have a lot of German markers. Got to have some German markers now. So I got sprint, and sneak, and hide, and waiting alert. We got all sorts of them. There are a lot of German markers. I got another. Oops. Just keep piling them on. And I even made some more for markers I'm working on my own. In place of run and gun or in addition, I'm going to have shoot and scoot. And to further delineate the functions of leaders, I'm going to have exhort commands. I'm working on those. Once I've finished playtesting some stuff, I'm going to post that too. The rest of the stuff just goes on top. So we got our initiative and turn track marker, just right on top. We got our play mat for our decks. We got our info sheet. And I printed and laminated a new sequence of play that's actually correct. It's got all the parts in that I don't want to have to deal with addenda. Okay, what about the dice? Got to get those dice in there too. Let me sneak this out of the way. We'll just put the dice down here. There. This is full to the top. I can get the lid on, it closes completely. The rules, well, they don't fit so well. I printed a new copy of the rules and put in the scenario book too. So the updated scenario books here and the rules. If I close this, it'll be overfull by about 1/4 of an inch. So I usually store my rule book separately because I like to get at it and read it anyway, because that's just the way I am. I'm about 1/4 inch proud here. It'll fit on my shelf like this if I want to, but usually I'll just leave the rules out, everything else in. Close that up. Nice and full and heavy. A lot of goodness and fun. Well, that's how I get everything back in the box. Hope you found it interesting. If you are interested in trying it yourself, I'll provide a link to a place on Amazon where I found these boxes. You can find them in most of your craft stores. And I'll make a copy of the labels and put that into the file section too if you want to use my labels. I'll probably put it in there as a Word document so you can edit it to your own needs. Well, that's it in a nutshell. Talk to you guys later.